Hello and welcome to Noni, your morning chat show discussing the topics and opinions that matter to you. Today we'll be asking, is it okay to live in sin with your partner in 2018? Also, online dating, is it the key to finding lasting love or just a nightmare waiting to happen? And we'll be finding out what you think with your comments on social media. Joining me on today's show, broadcaster Funmi Ogunja and Esther Falana from Backchat London. Now, cohabitation is the fastest growing family type in the UK, more than doubling from 1.5 million in the mid-90s to 3.3 million last year. But is living in sin more acceptable than it used to be? And is it actually a good idea? Esther, when you think of living in sin, is that kind of like a old age terminology, or do you understand it? Is it kind of a thing that people think about?
I think it's an old school
saying,
oh, you're living in sin. It could be living in sin based on the fact that you're living with a male partner and you're not married, you know. And for me, I think it is quite, if you still have that mentality, I think it's quite old school. I think you need to, it's 2018, you know, you need to get with the times now. And plus, I personally believe that I think you should live with a partner before you do get married. That's my personal opinion.
See, I'm not sure if I agree with that. For me, what do you think about it? Have you?
I'm guilty of living in sin. Like Esther, I agree. Like, I use that time to try and get to know my partner. I'm not just going to jump into marriage not knowing what you sleep like if you're annoying 24/7.
And when you say what you sleep like, you mean sleep as in snore, right?
Sleep.
Okay.
Okay. So I just like to use that chance to get to know my partner before we take that major step. So.
Yeah, but did it benefit you? Like Esther, you know, we've spoken about your relationship with the father of your child. Did you live with him and did it work out?
We did live together. It didn't work out. That's why I'm single. You can 079 me. No, it didn't work out. But that's one of the main reasons why, because I believe when you're dating someone and then you then get married and then you move in together, how well do you really know someone without living with them? You know that when you live with someone, you get to see their bad habits, their good habits, their do's, their don'ts, and then you then sit down and realize, all right, can I coexist with this person? Can we can we make this work?
I saw you were in Marbella recently. I saw it all over social media. But wouldn't you say, you know, going on holiday is kind of the same thing? That's, you know, you spend a week, let's say you spend a week with your fiance or the guy or the girl you're dating. Isn't that enough time?
No, on holiday I can pretend for 1 week.
But you can't pretend for. Why did you feel there was a pressure to live with the father of your child? Was it before or after you gave birth?
It was after I gave birth. I think naturally there is a pressure because it's like you want your family unit together. So
without the marriage.
I think eventually that was where it was going to go down that road. But I think naturally, coming from an African Nigerian household, you have a child, you should live together, you should get married. Those are the steps. I've just done it backwards, you know. And at the end of the day, living together, I think it came naturally. Like, okay, there was a bit of, we were both skeptical about it because, you know, it could go two ways. But I believe that because of that reason, for that lesson for what I went through, the lesson I learned was I personally in the future, I would prefer to live with my
even
partner.
though it didn't work, you would still do it again?
I would still do it again, but I would prefer, before I get married, I have to live with you. I need to know we can work out.
That's
because
standard.
Imagine me and my partner were married then, my daughter's father was married at that time. We may not have worked out. We could have been the same situation.
That's quite interesting, but for me, statistics do suggest that if you actually live with a partner before you get married, your relationship is more than likely to break down. So is it not that if you decide to wait until you're married, at least you've got the bond? You know, you're fighting, you hate each other most mornings, but there's something that keeps the marriage going. True. Tell us about Nigeria, what it's like there, because you do live there most of the time.
You know what? I could do the whole living in sin thing here, but in Nigeria, I wouldn't even try it.
Really? Why?
The judgment. And it's not just our culture, it goes back to religion as well, like the whole term living in sin. You know, living with someone, you're just kind of insinuating that you guys are sleeping with each other before marriage. So I think that's where...
And you're not always, are you?
You're not always.
Not every day.
That's where the stigma kind of comes from. So I wouldn't try it back home just because the negative energy you'd get from, you know, your elders is just a bit too much for me to handle. But here, you know, everyone's a bit more relaxed when it comes to relationships, and you can get away with stuff like that here.
If, Esther, you know, it's common and the statistics are showing us that your relationship is less likely to ask, tell me, why are more people doing it, especially when you're young? Why are people not staying at home, being in a relationship, you know, living with their mum and dad, you know, still seeing a guy and a girl. It's going to, why are people jumping in? Even if, you know, and most of the time they're not doing this with mortgages. They're both renting.
Yeah.
You're still very young. You still want to go out. Why do you think people are deciding to do this?
I think the reason that people are deciding to do that is because our parents are an example. In terms of, you have a lot of people who a lot of friends that I've grown up with, their mum and dads, yeah, they've stayed together, they've been together for many years, but there's no love. The dad's living in a separate room, the mum's living in a separate room. They're living completely different lifestyles. So I think in our generation, what we're trying to do is we're trying to test waters. Before we make that decision, okay, am I going to marry this person? Am I going to spend the rest of my life with this person? Let me see how we coexist by living together. You really don't know someone until you live with a person.
That's really interesting.
You know?
But then for me, if we take what Esther's saying, are people less likely to get married then? If you're deciding, because really, if you're living with someone, you're almost married, aren't you?
You are almost married, but there's the whole novelty with marriage. To some people, it's just a ring. To some people, it's just a piece of paper. But like the whole living together comes naturally, and marriage should naturally progress with your relationship anyway.
And not even that as well. Just to add, if you are someone who has been brought up with morals, values, and you understand what your mother has installed upon you, which is marriage is very important. No matter what, even if you live together, marriage will come, you know.
Did you want to get married to the
Of course, like, for example, of course, when we were living together, that would have been naturally the next step, and that was always at the back of our heads, you know, marriage. So people are not just living together and excluding marriage completely. People are still living together, but they're also testing waters and seeing, okay, this is the step before marriage. Can we do this? And then, of course, marriage will be conversations that will be had, just like children will be conversations that will be had.
For me, you said that, you know, you're guilty of living in sin.
I
Are you living in sin now?
Not at the moment.
Not
I'm
at the moment.
But
how was that discussion? How did you get there? Is it something that came from you? Was it came from them? Was it natural? Was it financial?
It was natural. It goes from spending so much time with each other to what's the point of living apart? Like, we see each other every day. We go to bed with each other every day. Not like that, but I'm either waking up in your bed or you're waking up in mine. Like, let's save each other the hassle and live together. We get to see each other more, and our relationship is only going to get better, I think.
What was the kind of things, Esther, that kind of like, oh, you know, I can't stand this guy and it's because I'm living with him?
Do you know what it is? I think it's not necessarily him per se. You need to be able to accept another person into your personal space, and vice versa. When you're so used to being single and then you have someone invade that space, it can become overwhelming. So
you've got to compromise.
So you've got to compromise. You have to be willing. And I think at the time I was still quite young. I wasn't willing to compromise at the time. There's also the fact that, you know, there's bad habits that you both may have that you never saw when you were just dating.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It could be the smallest. You don't clean up after yourself. Because I'm not gonna lie. If a man tell me he's coming to my house, I'm gonna clean up my house. But if I'm living with my man, there's gonna be days where my house is messy. Do you know what I mean? So it's sometimes you have to compromise with one another.
It's all about compromise, and we'll delve a bit deeper after the break. Coming up, we will continue this chat about cohabitation, and we're talking about online dating. Is it the best way to find a good relationship, or is it just too big a risk? More after the break. Welcome back to Noni. Still to come on today's show, we'll be asking if a dating app is the way to find true and lasting love. But before the break, we were talking about cohabitation or living in sin. Would it be wiser to get your partner to put a ring on it before you set up home together? It's so funny, ladies. I hate taking this to a kind of religious tone if you don't have to. But, you know, I'm Christian, and I remember when I met my husband many years ago when we were dating, the church that we belonged to at the time were very kind of strict about living in sin. And my partner was actually banished from serving in the church purely because we were living together. And I would say ours was kind of financial, and we loved each other and we knew we wanted to get married, but it was really frowned upon, and not from my family, but from the church community. So I do think there are people that do frown down upon people, even if they're doing stuff in their own backyards. They kind of put up a perception of, you shouldn't do this, thou shan't do this, thou shan't do that. Have you found that, like, in a religious aspect?
Do you know what? I come from a family where my mum's sister's husband is a pastor. My grandma is very religious. Like, I come from a Christian background. But one thing I love about my family, we're very modernized and we're very westernized and we're realistic.
Liberal?
very liberal.
Realistic, I like that one.
My uncle, my mum's sister's husband, is so realistic. You would love him as a pastor because he's a realist. And I understand the whole concept of, you can't, it's a sin, but to be banished, I don't agree with that. I think it's too strong. I think that we are all sinners. Even pastors are sinners. We all make mistakes.
Preach, Esther.
So for anyone to judge anyone, that's a sin in itself.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a bit harsh. And this is why I'm very touchy when it comes to religion and churches. So even my family, we're very, very particular.
I know what you mean. But you know what's so funny? And I don't know if it's because this happened a few years ago, but now for me, I don't think, if any of my friends said to me, oh, do you know what, Jules? I want to move in with him, and I will probably say don't,
Really?
I know, and I don't know if that's again, being judgmental.
Experience?
I kind of feel like if you can wait, you should, because it becomes really exciting and there's so many things you can find out about each other once you're married. Whereas if you cram it all in before, there's nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, of course there is. There's children, there's holidays, there's family planning, there's your family's connecting. I think there's so much to look forward to.
Yeah.
You know how many years you've got together, and you know one thing about time is you can't get it back. Once it comes and goes, it's gone, it becomes a memory. So for me, I believe, I get what you mean. It's all fast paced, but I believe the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
You can do as much as you want, even when you're living together as a couple. And not married. Look at how many vacations you can go on.
It's
Vacations,
true. Girl, I need a vacation. I need a vacation.
Yeah, and then when family comes and you have children, you then make it family holidays, and those are new memories.
No, you're right. You're right. This is a great advocate for the family home. For me, you've spoken about your mum being quite a liberal mother, similar to Esther's.
Similar.
But how was she when she found out you were living with your partner?
See, that's the thing. My mum is quite liberal, where my dad is the complete opposite. So my dad was not happy at all.
Really?
But my mum was happy in a sense where she felt like, okay, at least my daughter is not alone. She's comfortable. She's protected. Yeah. So my mum had that sort of, kind of maternal interest in it. And whereas my dad was like, he needs to make an honest woman of you. Yeah. If he wants to be with my daughter, he has to do it the traditional way. Come and ask for my hand in marriage, then marry you. Then you have the big house and the children.
Unfortunately, that's becoming, less realistic, isn't it? So how common do you think cohabiting is? Purely sometimes for financial reasons, where you just say, do you know what, this is just easier for us.
Financially, I can see why a lot of people do it, because naturally, when you finish university, you don't really want to go back home. You've had 3 years to be independent.
Too much freedom.
Too much freedom. To now go back home and wait for a man to say, will you marry me? How long could that take? So I believe I feel like financially and just for your own sanity and your own independence, it is good to go out in the big world and to start, and maybe I'm not saying go and live with someone immediately, but have your own independence, live independently.
I totally agree with you. But then surely the reason why you live with somebody is because you want your relationship to develop, to get into marriage.
Exactly.
But so then why, for me, are the statistics telling us that 50% of these relationships fizzle out and they don't last?
We can't say that all breakdowns are due to the fact that the two people live together.
Yeah.
It could be outside factors. It could be infidelity. It could be, financial. It could be anything. So I disagree with that. I feel like if a relationship is going to break down, it's going to break down whether you guys live together or live apart. It's just like marriages; they break down. And is it because they live together? We can't say it's because of that.
But then probably not. But then what about you? We talk about infidelity. Do you think it's easier to cheat on your partner if you're living with them before marriage?
Is it easier?
You get bored. Bored.
It's not easier.
No.
Because you know what? I
don't have any experience with that, by the way. I don't know.
I'm strong in believing that when you live with someone and you have a partner, my body is your body, and we need to explore our bodies completely.
Hey, my sister.
We have to explore.
This is a good advert.
No, we have to explore our bodies completely. So I, as your woman, I want to find out what makes you completely happy. So I will find out what makes you completely happy. And in our little flat that we live in together, we can do that.
Esther, you will make a wonderful wife. I don't know if you've been told that. But then I would say, do you get bored easier? Is it easier to walk away?
I'm not going to lie,
you can
get bored easily, but I feel like when you're in love with someone, you know,
Exactly.
women, especially women, I'm not sure about men.
Black women.
Black women, when we love our men, we love them. So no matter how bored we get, we go through phases and periods. Just like life, your children can get on your nerves and say you have a mad one, but then they're your children. You know, you can't, there's nothing, you can't get rid of them. And I believe when it comes to relationships, like Funmi was saying, if it's supposed to work, it will work regardless of how irritating you become or how upset you are with that person. You will make it work. So it doesn't matter if you're married or not.
Whether married or not. I think that's a good point to end it on, ladies. Now, online dating. According to research carried out by datingreviews.com, 46% of dating app users met their current partner online, and 44% of online daters who had success said that their use of online dating led to marriages or serious long-term relationships. But is online dating working for the Black community, or does it throw up a whole set of issues? Have you swiped to the left, Esther? Is this your thing? You said you're single. You know, have you gone to those measures?
I am very single, but I had a best friend who, I'm not going to bait her up, but I had a best friend who actually joined Tinder or one of these online dating apps. And when she joined it, I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. So I remember I was with her and we was looking through it, and I said, so if you like them, you swipe right. If you don't like them, you swipe left. Personally, I'm not really for the online dating. I don't think it's... I'm not for it. Like, just like when a man slides in my DM on Instagram, I'm not for it. So personally, I couldn't see it. Like, I prefer the more natural, I see you, you see me, hi babe, hi, I like you, you look pretty, can I get to know you? I like that. But the online stuff, people are too false. People are too, you know, people are creating this image about themselves, which I don't.
They're hiding behind
exactly. So for me, I would rather not.
For me, what is it? Because this perception that Esther has, a lot of people have it. It's still considered quite, I wouldn't say weird, but strange.
Yeah, this might surprise you, Esther, but I am for online dating. Insta, slide in my DMs. I've had relationships. Okay, one particular relationship lasted like 6 years. And I met this guy on, I'm not going to say on what social media, but I met him on social media.
Okay, well, you have to tell us more.
He slid into my DMs and we were talking back and forth for months. And the thing is, like, you get to truly know someone online because you're chatting and you're talking and it's more intellectual and you're stimulating me mentally. So it's only like going to progress to, I want to meet you, you know, and it's...
How long was it before you met him?
We met, I would say like 6 months after just talking on the phone.
Daily talking, daily FaceTiming, everything we could possibly do until we decided, you know what, let's meet. What did that meeting feel like?
The most nerve-wracking day of my life. Because it's like, whoa, I'm actually meeting this dude. And secondly, it's like, we've discussed everything that has to be discussed already. And I know, I feel like I know you already so well. And so it's just a beautiful kind of
And your relationship lasted 6 years?
It went on for 6 years off and on.
Was this the guy you cohabited with?
No.
But anyway, 6 years is a very long time. Esther, this is a kind of success, you know, and no, but the thing is, because I kind of understand what you mean about the online stuff, but then if you're talking to somebody for that long, you know, how was your day, babe? What's going on here? Even though it may be a false identity at first, you are getting, you know, deep, aren't you?
I agree with that, but then there's so many catfishes these days where people are pretending to be someone they're not. Now, I'm just like you. I like to talk. I love to communicate.
Really?
Like, I love to talk for like 6 months. Like, not 6 months, but I wouldn't wait 6 months. But like, I love to communicate like every day. How are you? We will talk before I actually go and link and see someone and go on a date. We could have been talking for like 2 months, 2-3 months.
And you can't do that with someone you met online?
No.
But then with FaceTime, there's no such thing as catfish. If I can see you.
See, that's a good one. If you're on FaceTime, I think that was new to me. I didn't think of FaceTime. I was just thinking of messages, you know, but I don't know, maybe one day I'll be open to it, who knows? But right now, I think I'm still quite old school, like in that aspect.
Do you know what's quite interesting? And I don't know why are black women always at the bottom of the totem pole with lots of things? But there were statistics that suggest that, you know, black men on these online dating apps are less likely to go for a black woman.
Of course, yeah.
And Why'd you say of course?
Because I think that black women have still got this like the perception I have, for example, that I'm not sure.
Oh, so you don't think there's enough of them? Or do you think
I
black men are scared that, oh, she's not going to be interested, let me go for the white girl or the Asian girl?
I personally think there's not enough. I don't think a lot of black girls are into it as much.
Okay.
I think they're still looking at the old school traditional way of meeting someone, or someone introduces you to one of their friends. I think that's the way I'm accustomed to. That's what I'm used to.
And you think most
and I think that's a lot of what. Whereas the white women or other ethnicities, they're a bit more, open to it.
What about social media? Again, we all know you're so popular on social media, you guys. Is sliding into the DM on Insta or another app like that the same as using a dating app?
Yes. More or less.
Yes, it's
more or less, because it's like once you post a hot pic, ding, 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 all the DMs start coming in. So, it's just,
if you're lucky.
I mean, yeah, okay. Well, you go fishing in your inbox and think, okay.
You're starting to actually, she's actually starting to sway me. I'm trying to say, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I'm just still quite guarded about it.
Think of it this way, like if you're not into the person, you can block them. That person cannot reach you
but do you know
again.
what I'm worried about is that, men these days, men can be so nasty. Like they'll screenshot your conversation, put it on social media. So those are the things that I'm very cautious about. Like,
especially because of your profile and your platform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons why I'm quite standoffish. I'm not sure about on.
But then you could be missing out on a 6-year relationship.
It didn't work.
What about in Nigeria? What's it like there for me?
Yeah.
I think it's just as big as it is here.
Really?
Like it's same thing. Sliding your DMs. You've got all the social media apps, you've got all the dating apps, and they work just as well as they do here, and people are up for it.
They have dating apps in Nigeria.
Tinder works in Nigeria.
Wow.
And other dating apps.
Other dating apps.
Do you know what? Let's hope that this program may find a gentleman for you two ladies, if you're looking. That's it for me, Juliana Olayinka, and my fabulous co-hosts, Funmi, Ogunja and Esther Falana. Join me once again tomorrow for more Noni Chat. Goodbye.